What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about the top 10 bebop tenor sax players in jazz. We sincerely want to thank all of our Patreon supporters who donate as little as $1 a month to help keep this channel going. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. I really hope you enjoyed our classic tenor sax player list. As the swing era ended and the bebop ushered in more virtuosity and small group playing, the tenor saxophone came to prominence. It's one of the reasons why we have so many great bebop tenor players. Now I want to give a disclaimer. We did not include Charlie Parker on this list, even though he did play tenor a little bit and was arguably the most influential bebop player. He was primarily an alto player, so we decided to leave him off. So let's get to the list. Coming in at number 10 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players in jazz, we have Johnny Griffin. Griffin began his career at 15 playing with T-Bone Walker, then joined Lionel Hampton's band, sitting next to Arnett Cobb. After serving 2 years in the Army, Griffin established himself in Chicago and signed with Blue Note Records. He went on to perform extensively with Art Blakey, Thelonious Monk, Eddie Lockjaw Davis, and Kenny Clarke. Griffin's unique style, astounding technique, and command of the bebop language made him feared at jam sessions. Nicknamed the Little Giant for his tiny stature, he was a fashionable dresser, good businessman, and a well-liked bandleader. Finding better work and acceptance abroad, Griffin moved to France in 1963 and the Netherlands in 1978. Coming in at number 9 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have James Moody. Moody was raised by his single mother in Newark, New Jersey. He was attracted to the saxophone after hearing Buddy Tate and Don Byas. Moody joined the U.S. Army Air Corps Band and then joined Dizzy Gillespie for 2 years, adding the flute to his arsenal. He moved to Europe and had a huge hit in 1952 with an improvisation entitled Moody's Mood for Love. Later in his career, Moody led his own quartet and performed with various all-star groups around the world. He established a scholarship fund at Purchase College in New York and participated in countless educational outreach programs. I had the pleasure of working with James Moody on several occasions, receiving lessons and performing with him, and I have to say, he was an incredible person. His heart was always open, and he spent so much time with all of his students. His joy, charisma, and love will always stay with me. Coming in at number 8 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Jimmy Heath. Jimmy Heath grew up in a very musical family as the brother of bassist Percy Heath and drummer Albert Tootie Heath. He earned the nickname Little Bird in the late 1940s, playing with Howard McGee and Dizzy Gillespie, then switched to the tenor. In the 50s, he worked with Miles Davis, Milt Jackson, Kenny Dorham, and Art Farmer. Heath was a professor of jazz studies at Queens College for almost 3 decades and received an NEA Jazz Masters Award in 2003. He performed on more than 100 albums and wrote more than 125 compositions, many of which have become jazz standards. I also had the pleasure to work with Jimmy Heath numerous times. He not only was a great musician and composer, but always brought humor to the stage. Coming in at number 7 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Lucky Thompson. Thompson raised his siblings after his mother died and joined Erskine Hawkins' band as a teenager to earn money for the family. He went on to play under Lionel Hampton, Billy Eckstine, Count Basie, Miles Davis, and Dizzy Gillespie. Although he was harmonically sophisticated as any bebopper, his style echoed that of Don Byas and Coleman Hawkins more than Charlie Parker. Thompson became very alienated by the music business and moved to Paris, where he made several recordings and began playing the soprano. In the mid-1970s, he left the music business entirely, and there were rumors that he lived as a hermit for decades. Coming in at number 6 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Wardell Gray. The 21-year-old Lester Young protege got his big break joining the Earl Hines Orchestra. A few years later, Gray settled in Los Angeles working with Benny Carter and eventually established himself enough to find himself in the recording studio next to Charlie Parker and in performances with Dexter Gordon. He worked with Count Basie and Benny Goodman, but was unhappy with the traveling. He found more fulfilling work recording with Tad Dameron and Al Haig, proving himself as a bebop giant. Coming in at number 5 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Hank Mobley. Mobley was described by Leonard Feather as the middleweight champion of the tenor saxophone, referring to his style that wasn't as aggressive as Coltrane or Rollins, nor as mellow as Stan Getz or Ben Webster. Many musicians hold Mobley's subtle style in high regard as one of the most underrated musicians of the bop era. Mobley took part in one of the earliest hard bop recording sessions with Horace Silver and the Jazz Messengers, recorded over 20 albums as a leader, and is considered one of the greatest hard bop composers. Coming in at number 4 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Stan Getz. While only a teenager, Getz was hired to play in the bands of Jack Teagarden, Lionel Hampton, Stan Kenton, Jimmy Dorsey, and Benny Goodman. He gained wide attention when he was featured as one of the 4 brothers with Woody Herman. Getz had a warm, mellow tone, echoing his idol, Lester Young. In 1953, he co-led a sextet with Dizzy Gillespie and Max Roach. Getz became a central figure in introducing the bossa nova music to the American audience, along with the guitarist Charlie Byrd, Antonio Carlos Jobim, and João Gilberto. His recordings of The Girl from Ipanema and Desafinado both won Grammy Awards and sold millions of copies. Coming in at number 3 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Sonny Stitt. Stitt was heavily influenced by Charlie Parker and is sometimes unfairly criticized for imitating Parker's style. He played under Billy Eckstine, Dizzy Gillespie, and briefly with Miles Davis, but mainly toured on his own, joining local rhythm sections and all-star lineups with just about every big name in bebop. Equally at home on the alto and tenor saxophones, Stitt could play at any tempo in any key with ease, and was feared at jam sessions for his competitive nature. He was nicknamed the Lone Wolf by jazz critic Dan Morgenstern because of his relentless devotion to touring on his own. Coming in at number 2 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Dexter Gordon. Gordon's height was 6 feet 6 inches, and he became known as Long Tall Dexter. He had a huge sound with a tendency to play behind the beat, with his major influence being Lester Young. Early in his career, Gordon played under the leadership of Lionel Hampton, Fletcher Henderson, Louis Armstrong, Billy Eckstine, and Nat King Cole. He became known for inserting humorous musical quotes into his solos, and often recited the lyrics of a ballad on stage before playing it. He recorded prolifically as a leader throughout the 60s and 70s, including 14 years in Europe, performing with special guests including Bud Powell, Ben Webster and Freddie Hubbard. Aside from his playing, Gordon is best remembered by the public for starring in the 1986 movie Round Midnight, earning him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. And finally, coming in at number 1 for top 10 bebop tenor sax players, we have Sonny Rollins. During his high school years, Rollins played in a band with Jackie McLean, Kenny Drew, and Art Taylor. He soon went on to collaborate with just about every great bebop and hard bop jazz musician. A number of his compositions, including St. Thomas, Olio, Doxy, Pent-Up House, and Aerogen, have become jazz standards. Sonny Rollins has often been recognized as one of the most influential jazz saxophonists after Charlie Parker, and he's recorded over 60 albums as a leader. So that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed my list. As you can see, there's so many great bebop tenor sax players. All of them, without a doubt, were influenced by Charlie Parker, as well as many of the swing tenor sax players that I mentioned. It's so interesting to see how these players really cut their teeth in many of the same swing bands, like Billy Eckstine and Lionel Hampton. And it really helps us see the connection between the swing style and the bebop style. And as always, we really want to thank all of our Patreon supporters that help make this channel possible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.